They had already burned Athens, the great marble temples, shattered, the homes of philosophers and warriors reduced to ash. And the message was clear. Greece belonged to Persia now. But King Xerxes didn't realize that burning a city does not burn an idea, and the idea of resistance was still alive. Somewhere in the mountains and valleys of Greece, an army was gathering for something far more dangerous than revenge. A final battle, one that would decide whether Greece would survive or disappear into history. And leading that final stand was Sparta. The story begins after the Battle of Thermopylae. 300 Spartans, King Leonidas I, a narrow pass, and an empire held back for days. Though wiped out, they became immortal. Their sacrifice spread across Greece like wildfire. Fear turned into rage. Shock turned into unity. Because if 300 men could stand against Persia, maybe Persia wasn't unstoppable after all. But inspiration alone doesn't win wars, and Persia was far from finished. After Thermopylae, the Persian army marched south. City after city fell under pressure or fear. Finally, Athens was evacuated. The Athenians fled to the sea while Persian forces entered the empty city. Then came the torching. Homes burned, statues destroyed. The Acropolis, once sacred, was desecrated. It was not just conquest, it was humiliation. Mardonius, one of Xerxes' top generals, now held central Greece. He believed the war was essentially over. All that remained was for Greece to accept reality, or break apart resisting it. Unlike earlier invasions, Persia now played a slower game. Mardonius didn't need a quick victory, only internal collapse, and it almost worked. Greek city-states were rivals, old enemies. Some pushed for surrender, others for war. Fear often outweighed courage. Even Sparta hesitated, because this time the battlefield had changed. No narrow pass, no choke point, open land where cavalry ruled, and Persia had thousands of horsemen. Inside Sparta, silence fell over the council. War meant risk, but surrender was unthinkable. So Sparta chose to fight, not for glory, but because retreat was impossible. Command of the Greek coalition went to Pausanias, nephew of Leonidas. He carried not just a sword, but a legacy. For the first time in years, Greek city-states marched together. Spartans, Athenians, Corinthians, Tegeans, and others. Thousands of hoplites formed one of the largest Greek armies ever assembled. But unity came with tension. Each city had pride, fear, and different ideas of war. Still, they marched, because without unity, there would be nothing left to fight for. Meanwhile, Mardonius acted. He knew Greek warfare and its discipline, so he tried to break them before battle began. He offered negotiations, sent messages, and tried to divide the coalition. Some nearly broke, but Sparta refused every offer. No compromise, no surrender, only war. Both armies finally met in Boeotia. The Persian camp was massive, confident. The Greeks held higher ground near Mount Cithaeron, stronger defensively but uncertain. Then, nothing. Days passed, then more. Two armies stared across open land, waiting, because one mistake would decide everything. Supplies ran low, morale dropped, arguments spread in the Greek camp, and at night they began shifting positions to find better ground. But movement in darkness is never safe, and someone was always watching. Mardonius noticed. He saw gaps, hesitation, opportunity, and he decided, no more waiting, no more standoff. The Persian army would attack at dawn, before the Greeks could regroup, before Sparta could anchor the line. And as night fell over Plataea, two of the greatest armies in history prepared for a collision that would decide the fate of Greece. Before sunrise, the world was silent. The Greek camp at Plataea sat tense on the hills, exhausted from days of maneuvering and uncertainty. Then, in the darkness below, the Persian army moved. At first, it was just noise, armor shifting, horses breathing, commanders shouting orders in the night. Then came the advance. Mardonius had chosen the moment perfectly. The Greeks were scattered, repositioning, uncertain. If he struck now, he could break them before they even formed a line. And so, under the first gray light of dawn, the Persian war machine surged forward. The Greek army was caught mid-movement. Some units had already shifted positions. Others were still climbing into formation. Confusion spread instantly. Commanders shouted orders that were lost in the chaos. Lines that were supposed to be tight and unified were now fragmented across the hills. But then something changed. Spartan discipline. Even in disorder, the Spartans did not panic. Inside the ranks of Sparta's elite warriors, shields locked, spears leveled, no shouting, no retreat, just formation. Nearby Greek units saw it and followed. Slowly at first, then all at once, the Greek line began to stabilize. Mardonius believed this was the moment of collapse. He unleashed his strongest forces, waves of infantry supported by cavalry, trying to break the Greek center before it could fully form. The battlefield turned into chaos. Dust filled the air, shields clashed, horses screamed, arrows darkened the sky. The Persians pushed hard, forcing sections of the Greek line to bend backward. For a moment, it looked like Sparta might finally break. Then came the counter. The Spartans moved as one, not fast, not flashy, unstoppable. Their shield wall locked into place, absorbing the Persian assault like stone against waves. Every step forward was measured, every push deliberate. The Persians expected fear. Instead, they met silence behind bronze helmets. Greek morale surged as more hoplites joined the Spartan center, reinforcing the line. The battlefield was no longer chaos. It was structure, and Persia was now fighting into it. Seeing his army stall, Mardonius did something dangerous. He entered the battle himself. Riding forward in full armor, he rallied his elite guard, trying to break the Spartan center personally. For a brief moment, the Persians surged again. Greek lines wavered. Dust and steel filled the air so thickly that visibility collapsed. But war is not only strength, it is endurance. And Sparta had been trained for nothing else. In the chaos, Mardonius pushed too far forward. His horse stumbled in the broken terrain, and in that split second, the Greek line closed in. A Spartan spear found its mark. The Persian general fell. Silence followed, not immediate, but spreading. First through nearby troops, then across sections of the army. The command structure wavered, and hesitation spread through Persian ranks like fire in dry wood. Without Mardonius, coordination faltered. The Persian advance slowed, then stopped, then broke. What had been a coordinated assault became scattered pockets of resistance. Greek forces pressed forward, step by step, shield by shield. The Persians began to retreat, but retreat on a battlefield like this was not organized. It became chaos. Camp followers ran, infantry scattered, cavalry lost formation. The once massive Persian army began to collapse under its own size. The Greeks surged into the Persian camp. Supply tents burned, command posts were overrun. The Persian army, once so confident, was now in full flight, and the Greeks did not stop. They had waited too long, endured too much, lost too many cities. Now there was no restraint left. The battlefield became a pursuit, a collapse, a rout. By the end of the day, the Persian invasion force in Greece had been shattered. What remained fled north, abandoning supplies, equipment, and wounded. The dream of conquering Greece ended not with a dramatic empire-ending decree, but with the slow, total breakdown of an army that had stretched too far from home. On the battlefield of Plataea, the Greek allies stood among the aftermath, smoke rising, shields broken, the silence of survival heavy in the air. Sparta had not fought alone, but its discipline had held the center when everything else fractured. The legacy of Thermopylae had not ended in defeat. It had ended in victory. And with that victory, the Persian invasion of mainland Greece was over. But wars do not end cleanly, because even as Greece celebrated, new tensions were already forming, new rivalries rising, and a new question emerged from the ashes of victory. If Sparta could defeat an empire, what would stop them from ruling Greece itself?